Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Cooper Stuff. Would Jesus wear a mask? Would Jesus get a vaccine? Oh my gosh. When did Christianity get so absolutely confusing? Everybody's always yelling at you, telling this is what Jesus would do. No, this is what Jesus would do. It's gotten very confusing. I think there are some things that we should be dogmatic about. I think there's other things that we should apply a little bit of grace and generosity towards one another about. I tell you that because of this. This is not going to be exhaustive. I'm not telling you whether to wear a mask or to get a vaccine. That's not what I'm doing. I want to talk about two statements that were made this week from an incredible duo that I think would make a good wrestling team, maybe a good WWE tag team matchup. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Beth Moore. All right, they both came out with statements this week that were kind of similar in a certain way. And I thought it would do good for me to talk about the statements, share my point of view, hopefully in a very generous way. I'm in a generous mood. I'm feeling gracious today. Are you? I hope so, because we're going to have some fun watching Cooper Stuff. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cooper Stuff. It's great to see you. In case we have people joining us for the first time, I'm going to have to give a whole lot of caveats. All right, here's what we're talking about today. For one thing, this is extremely unprecedented times, right? I think people are genuinely trying to figure out what does Jesus want me to do? What is the best way to show my faith in these absolutely insane times that we live in? I think people are really trying to do their best. I think there are some things that we need to be gracious towards one another on. Now, you know, if you've watched Cooper Stuff, I am also dogmatic about lots and lots of things. Nobody has ever accused me of not being dogmatic about stuff. I'm quite opinionated. But we are in kind of a really weird time. And I want to start this by saying this. I think I've said it before. I think that your conscience, your personal conscience before the Lord, has to come into play in a really big way in these issues. If you feel like that the best thing that you can do unto the Lord is to get a vaccine, I would say, go for it. That's between you and the Lord. That's up to you. Go for it. Absolutely no judgment from me. If you want to get a vaccine and wear a mask, if that's what you feel like you need to do, that's up to you. If you want to wear a mask, up to you. I feel this is like an issue of like, hey, everybody can make kind of their own decisions here. Because it's kind of a weird time we live in. What I don't like is on these very complicated issues, when the dogmatism comes in of, if you're a believer, you will do this, when there is so much to talk about. And I know some of you are going, John, you do that sometimes. I'm a pretty dogmatic person myself. I think we're dealing with some pretty unusual times when we're doing this. Also, caveat number 2, because you might not know me. I'm going to read Beth Moore's tweets. I'm not trying to beat up on Beth Moore. I know people whose lives were changed through Beth Moore's Bible studies, especially more like 2010, 11, 12, some of those Bible studies that she'd done. I know people that have begun to have a love for the Bible because of Beth Moore Bible studies. So this is in no way trying to beat up on her or trying to put words in her mouth, all right? She said something, maybe she said the quiet part out loud, which I think a lot of our kind of platform leaders are saying. When I say platform leaders, what I'm talking about is probably not your pastor, right? There's pastors and preachers and teachers and elders all over the country doing amazing work for Christ, right? A lot of great people. But we have these platform people. It's people on Twitter, on Facebook. It's the famous people, the more celebrity people. I guess in a certain way, I'm a platform person now, aren't I? So it's people like me. I'll put myself in the bucket. A lot of us platform people, influencers, whatever you want to call us for Christianity, are saying a lot of very similar things, and I'm not uber comfortable with a lot of it, all right? So we begin to see this. First, mainly just because it's funny, I want you to see this clip from Arnie. Check this one out.
There is a virus here. It kills people, and the only way we prevent it is to get vaccinated, to wear masks, to do social distancing, washing your hands all the time, and not just to think about well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom. Because with freedom comes obligations and responsibilities. We cannot just say, I have the right to do X, Y, and Z. When you affect other people, that is when it gets serious.
Get to the chopper. All right, now here's the deal. I want to be fair on the show, so I don't, just start saying things that about people that maybe they didn't mean. I am very not comfortable. Another way to say that is uncomfortable. So it's called grammar. I am uncomfortable with what Arnie says there, even though, let's be fair, I don't actually think what he's trying to say is that I hate freedom, screw freedom. It's not. I don't think that's really what he's getting. I think what he's getting at is in a little bit of a principle, something I would agree with, which is that you're not actually just free to do anything you want to do, right? You can't go steal from your neighbor. Like liberty comes with certain rules and regulations. That's what true freedom would be, because then it protects your neighbor's rights as well, right? So I think what he's trying to say is it's not about your personal freedom because you're going to hurt other people. All right, so let's just kind of be honest. I'm very uncomfortable about what he said for some other reasons that we're going to get into. But in a certain way, I think that he's being misinformed about why a lot of people do not want to get vaccinated, and why maybe a lot of people don't want to wear masks. I think it's a little bit of almost like in his mind, the only reason people are doing it is like, well, screw everybody. I don't care if it hurts somebody or not. This is me up in here. This is all me, and I don't care if it hurts anybody, whatever. I don't really think that's largely what we're dealing with. So why don't we move on to Beth Moore's tweet. This is August 10. So here we go. I'm going to read two of her tweets. For all our Jesus talk, where on earth is our Jesus walk? If you are not a Christian, I'm not talking to you. But if you are, Jesus wasn't playing when he called us to a whole different ethic from the world. We're not loudmouth boasters. We're servants. We serve. Stare in the face what some of you are saying. My rights are more important than your life. Sorry, not sorry. If you're not going to get vaccinated, for the love of God, and then she goes to all caps, put on a mask in public spaces with vulnerable people. Go ahead and unfollow me. I don't care. Follow Jesus. All right. So again, the Arnie thing isn't really important at all. I just wanted to do it because I like it. But if you think about it, in a certain way, they're both saying something a little bit similar, which is that all of you out there are just like, this is all me. This is my individual freedom. I don't care if it hurts other people. That seems to be what they think is driving a lot of people from not getting a vaccine or not wearing a mask. I think that is extremely, extremely misinformed. I am not saying that there are no people like that. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that get really worked up and say, you have no right to tell me what to do. They might say that, but I don't think that means it's coming from a place of utter selfishness, as we're going to look at in a second. So with Beth Moore, I have no problem if that's what she believes. If she believes, I just think that it's just wrong to not wear a mask if you're not vaccinated, because you could save someone's life, and if you just care about your own convenience over their lives, I just have a problem with that, and so I'm going to mask. If that's what she believes, then she can mask, or she can vaccine, or she can vaccine and mask, or whatever. I don't even have a problem with her or someone else saying, hey, I just want to share my opinion with you. I actually think it's wrong, but it's up to you. Like, I don't even have a problem with that, because I say stuff like that on Cooper Stuff quite a lot, don't I? I've talked about things like marching with BLM. I have a problem with it, but I do understand why other people don't. And if that's the case, then grace to you. We should still be able to be brothers in Christ. I hope we can work out our issues and maybe we'll come to common ground. We can talk about the stuff. But if that's what it is, grace to you. We still got to find some common ground on things. Like, this isn't like an issue like the atonement of Christ, right? You know what I mean? There are things that we must agree on, and there are things that I think we can have grace on. So What I have a problem with this is more the Pharisaical nature of it. Pharisaical basically means like a Pharisee. It's the Pharisaical nature of something of putting new laws in that God hasn't commanded. It's almost like, well, this is my interpretation of that, and so I'm going to put it into law. And if you don't do it, then where on earth is your Jesus walk? That's what I have a problem with. Now, there are some things I think we can do that on. I think we could be fair, right? And I'm going to say something that some people are not going to like right now, but that's why you watch Cooper Stuff, because I don't give zero poops for the woke cookies. Some of these people, and somebody might get mad at me, if the shoe fits, wear it. If the shoe fits, wear it, right? Some of the people, David French, Beth Moore, Together for the Gospel Coalition, a lot of these platform people, if the shoe fits, wear it. I'm not trying to throw them all on the bus. I guess it's a little bit of a generalization, but if you've read the same articles I have, then you know it's pretty fair. Some of these people are becoming remarkably nuanced on issues that I think don't require a lot of nuance. Yet they're becoming extremely unnuanced on like an issue of masking. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, for instance, I'm seeing a ton of nuance when it comes to the abortion issue from a lot of these people. Like, no, I am pro-life, but pro-life doesn't just mean being against abortion. Pro-life means having a certain idea about immigration into America, about migrants at the border. That's pro-life. Pro-life is about masking. Pro-life is actually about taking a vaccine. Pro-life is about making sure that there is free health care for women so that they don't have to have abortions. Pro-life means making sure there is free child care, because otherwise, how can these women do this? And in other words, pro-life is now this whole other big thing. Let's stop talking about the abortion thing, because it's more nuanced than that, guys. Well, I don't think that the abortion issue is one to be nuanced, but a lot of these, what I consider to be woke platform Christian leaders, are becoming extremely nuanced about those things. But when it comes to mask, no. Where's your Jesus walk? That's what I mean when I say it sounds oddly Pharisaical to me. So here we go. I'm going to give you a rundown so that you don't have to listen to me talk for an hour, because I'm going to talk for like 15 hours today. I have a ton to say. I'm going to break some of this stuff down. But you know what I'm going to do for you? Because I'm feeling so generous, because I'm such a nice guy. I'm playing rock shows again, and I'm in a good mood. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm just going to run it down. I'm going to give you like 5 minutes of my whole spiel, and you can just turn me off after that if you don't like it. Some of you might not like it. Some of you might want to keep listening. I hope you do keep listening. The first part of my spiel starts with this. If you're into the vaccine, that's fine with me. Good. If you're into masking, that's fine with me. Good. I have grace in this situation, but there are some really important things to talk about. I want to read Beth's tweet one more time. Only the second half. Stare in the face of what some of you are saying. My rights are more important than your life. Sorry, not sorry. If you're not going to get vaccinated, for the love of God, go to all caps, put on a mask in public places with vulnerable people. Go ahead and unfollow me. I don't care. Follow Jesus. That's her tweet. Can I start off with a Bible verse? Proverbs 18:17. A lot of you know this already. The one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. This is so important, you guys. Do you agree with me that we are in unprecedented times? And when we are talking about COVID, I mean, we're not going to talk about the what I would call the geopolitical implications of COVID, because I'm not qualified to do so. But do you agree that there are massive geopolitical ramifications that most normal people, I consider myself a normal people, or a person, normal people, we can hardly understand that. It's not that we're stupid. There's so much agenda. Can we agree that there's a lot to talk about? It's pretty easy to make an argument and again, I'm not picking on Beth. It's just the one that happened this week. This is all over the place and woke Christian Twitter. It's pretty easy to make a case for anything and then say, because of love of neighbor, isn't it? That's your whole argument? Jesus wants us to love people. Love your neighbor. So get your Jesus walk in order. I tweeted about 8 months ago, I saw a picture of it was a billboard in Canada, and it's a picture of a baby, and on the billboard it says, the greatest gift that you can give your child is not having a second child. You hear that? The greatest gift you can give your child is not having a second child. I don't remember what organization it was that said it on the billboard. I tweeted it. You can always go back and look. One of these, probably like the degrowth movement or the depopulation movement, whatever. Well, their opinion is that the greatest thing you can do to love someone is stop having kids, because we're actually making people's lives worse, because we're overpopulating the planet. We're raping the earth, if you will. In the parlance of our time and the way that everything is so Marxist these days in terms of our thinking, or neo-Marxist, I should say, is basically that human beings are oppressing the earth. Stop having kids. You're hurting those other people. The greatest love you could do is to not be selfish. This isn't about your rights. You see, this isn't about your rights. Don't be selfish. It's not all about you. Well, I can have another baby if I want to. Don't. Show true love and stop having kids. In fact, maybe don't have any kids at all. It's not about you. So then if you believe that, well, then what do you say? Well, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. And so don't have children, guys. You can apply that to anything. And that's where this stuff, to me, gets really dangerous. So here we go. Proverbs 18:17. The one who states his case first seems right until the other comes and examines him. So let me just respond. This is my thing. I told you I'd go really fast, and you can turn me off if you don't want to. In order to say what this tweet from Beth Moore says, in order to believe that tweet, here's all the things that you must believe or that you must disbelieve in order to tweet that, okay? Or not tweet it, in order to agree with that. In order to say, amen, Beth, here's all the things that you have to that you have to believe or disbelieve. I'm going to bust through them. You ready? Starting number 1, you must apply single factor analysis. And that single factor analysis is the harm from COVID. You know what single factor analysis is, right? Single factor analysis would be like saying the happiest people in the world are Americans. Why? Because we have more wealth than everyone else. Well, everybody knows that's just because you have more wealth than everybody else doesn't mean you're the happiest. There's a lot of factors that would have to go into that, right? You would look up suicide rates. You would look up all sorts of things in order to come to a conclusion of what you consider to be the happiest country on earth, right? Single factor analysis is a huge problem. Sorry, I want to explain that. All right, number 1, you must apply single factor analysis, the harm from COVID. You must believe that COVID is much more deadly than it is in order to justify single factor analysis. I'm not saying that COVID isn't harmful. I'm not saying it doesn't kill people. It does. It's scary. Yes, it's freaky. But you have to think that it's deadlier than it is in order to justify single factor analysis, that nothing else matters. Number 3, you must believe that the information we are receiving from the government, medical establishment, big tech, and big media is accurate and true. I'm just saying. You must ignore the fact that big tech is conjoined with the medical community to censor, pull down competing research, stats, and scientific research that doesn't agree with what our overlords tell us, right? You got to ignore it. Hey, did you guys see that thing on Facebook? It got yanked down already. We got to ignore that. You must disbelieve or ignore the clearly untrue things that we are told, the contradictory information, but still be willing to act upon the ever-changing and unquestioned guidance of the institutions. Next, you must believe in the efficacy of vaccines. Next, you must disbelieve in any harmful side effects of vaccines. Next, you must believe in the efficacy of masks. If you don't know what efficacy means, that means the power to do what it says it's going to do. You have to believe that masks work. You have to believe that vaccines work. Next, you must ignore various research and statistics and certain words from Dr. Fauci himself about the efficacy of masks. You must believe that we can reach zero COVID. You must ignore the fact that people demanding you to wear a mask or to lock down don't believe their own words because they ignore it. You got to ignore Obama's 60th birthday party of hundreds of unmasked people. You ignore that. You have to ignore Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago going to Lollapalooza with 100,000 people maskless. You got to ignore that. You have to ignore the fact that I'll get back to that. I think you get the point. They don't believe what they're saying, right? They don't believe what they're saying, but you got to ignore that. All of these things, and I'll dive into some of those things in a little while more thoroughly, but I'm trying to give you the rundown so you can tell me to shut up and turn me off. All of these things lead to my personal biggest problem with the conclusion that Jesus wants you to wear a mask. That is a lot of things to consider. Do you agree? That is a lot of things, a lot of question marks to consider to get all the way down to Jesus wants you to wear a mask. This is my biggest problem, what I'm going to say right now. There is something that I personally am much, much more terrified about than COVID, okay? And that is just tyranny, totalitarianism. Whether that comes from the government or whether that's just like a cultural tyranny, like you are excluded from being involved in anything in the public sphere, which we're beginning to sort of see right now. I am very scared of tyranny for lots and lots of reasons, which we're going to get into for 1 second. Here's my thing. Where Arnold and Beth seem to think this is just a bunch of stubborn, I don't care about anybody else, it's all about my individual rights. Here's what I would say. I can't think of anything in this situation more loving, and I believe in a true biblical sense of the word love, not like the weird degrowth movement that love is not having kids. All right, I'm talking about biblical definition of love. I can't think of anything more loving in this situation than to protect those individual rights. Not because we're a bunch of braggarts, not because we don't care about anybody else, but because people fought and bled and died in order for us to have some sort of individual autonomy in a biblical sphere of authority. By the way, this isn't like I should do whatever I want to. No. God gives us these rights. I think it's more loving to protect those rights and fight against the totalitarianism. I am much more scared of totalitarianism than COVID or cancer, for that matter, because totalitarianism and tyranny will destroy nations, will destroy cultures. 150 million people were killed in the last century from various dictatorships and totalitarianisms and dictators and that sort of thing. I am much more frightened of that, because where you move into, I should do a whole podcast on this, but where you move into is this idea of safism. And once you move into safism, when you are willing to trade, I will give you my rights, government. I will give you control of my life. If you just keep me safe, if you just keep me safe from all harm, I'll give it all over to you. That's scary. That is a scary, scary place. And mark my words, you will see incredible oppression if people are willing to give up everything they have in order for the government to take care of them. By the way, the government they can't actually do what they say they want to do anyway. The government can't actually keep you safe from all harm. That's just not going to happen. That is safism, which basically leads to statism. Basically, whatever the state says has to go. It's not my life, it's theirs. You tell me. I am very, very afraid of that. Let me tell you and I'm almost done with my overview, so you can turn me off if you want to. But you shouldn't, because it's going to be so much fun. This is why I have such an issue with this idea of the mask wearing. This is why I have an issue with the mask wearing. The issue of the mask wearing, to me, is nothing more than theater. It is making me jump into an unreality, something that I do not believe, just to acquiesce to either the overlords meaning government, big tech, big business, big media, whatever, to acquiesce to what they want me to do, even though I know that it's not true, but I'm going to play the game. And every time I put my mask on, I know that I'm doing something that I do not believe in. In other words, I'm being forced to lie. And Rod Dreher came out with an amazing book last year that you should read called Live Not by Lies. That's the thing. I am being forced to jump into something I don't believe, and I'm living by a lie. I'm living by a lie that this mask is actually going to keep me safe from all harm. To acquiesce to the government that says that I'm believing something that I know that I don't believe. So now I'm basically living in a fantasy world. That frightens me. And every time I put that mask on, that's basically what I think. I know I'm doing this. I know it's show. I know it's theater. I know my overlords don't even believe in it, because if they did, they wouldn't be breaking all of their own rules. I know somebody's going, no, they do believe it. They just made decisions based on other things. Oh, you mean like not single factor analysis? We'll jump into that in a second. Let me read this to you real fast. It's going to be 4 paragraphs, so you got to put your listening ears on, put your thinking cap on here. Writing in the City Journal, Robert Henderson explains in his essay, it's called Tell Only Lies. You hear that? Tell Only Lies. That it is no longer enough to be ideologically pure by current standards. One must always have held the proper beliefs. Of course, such tortuous moral standards can only lead to lying. In a recent paper titled Keeping Your Mouth Shut, Spiraling Self-Censorship in the United States, political scientists James L. Gibson and Joseph L. Sutherland reveal that self-censorship among Americans has soared. In the 1950s, at the height of McCarthyism, 13.4% of Americans reported that they, quote, felt less free to speak their mind than they used to. In 1987, the figure reached 20%. By 2019, 40% of Americans reported that they did not feel free to speak their minds. Now, this is the good part. What are the consequences of this continuous self-censorship? Asked Henderson. He notes that, quote, in his book, The Great Terror, the British historian Robert Conquest suggests one possible answer. In a passage about Soviet show trials, Conquest was troubled by something. Why did innocent people falsely confess to appalling crimes, even when most Soviet citizens themselves did not believe these people when they confessed? You hear that? They confessed to appalling crimes that they did not actually do, all right? Even when their citizens, their fellow citizens, they also knew that it wasn't true, but they confessed anyway. Why did they do that? Conquest offers a chilling answer. Soviet citizens grew so used to lying that expressing one more falsehood was no big deal. People grew conditioned to accept the ever-changing standards and even affirm support for them. Moreover, Henderson notes that, quote, management expert Jerry B. Harvey describes situations in which individuals disagree with an idea but acquiesce out of a perception that others agree with it. If honesty becomes unfashionable, we operate under the assumption that others hold certain opinions, which in fact they do not. One more paragraph, very important. Make sure you're listening. Henderson warns, quote, as the rulers of the game keep shifting and individuals lose jobs or prominence because of things that they have said in the past, we will all become more adept at expressing falsehoods. You hear that? We will all become more adept at expressing falsehoods. It is likely that such a system will select for individuals predisposed to being comfortable with deception. Over time, only liars will speak openly. You hear that? Only liars will speak openly. That, of course, as I said, that was from the book The Great Terror, which is Robert Conquest. That is quoted in this book, which is called American Marxism, which I just got done with today. That's very good, by Mark Levin, by the way. Very good book. In other words, what we're trying to say here, it's almost like if you've read 1984. I don't know if you've read 1984 or not. I don't want to ruin it, but I will just say this. There's a character in the book that basically this communistic, regime is forcing everybody to lie. You have to lie about the past. They have to rewrite history. And so the main character in the book, that's actually his job. They tell him what to rewrite, and you have to go back into books and they rewrite the things as if they happened. You are basically changing the past in order that you can change the future. Does that sound familiar to anyone? We call that 1619 Project. I said it. I don't even care. Anyway, you have to change the past in order to control the future. So this main character is sort of kind of waking up, if you will. He's waking up to what's going on. He's asking questions. You're not allowed to do that. And so in this story, there's basically a character that is being tortured, and they are trying to force him to admit that 2 plus 2 could equal 5. It doesn't have to equal 5, you see. He's not saying that. You don't have to say that 2 plus 2 always equals 5 and it's subjective truth. You don't have to say that. You have to say that 2 plus 2 could equal 5. Can't you see that that could be the case? In other words, it's a form of humiliation. It's a form of humiliation because you know that you're lying, but you have to jump into it and admit to it even though you know you're doing something that you do not believe. That's what I feel about the mask wearing. I just feel like it's a form of humiliation. I don't mean humiliation like, oh, I look so stupid in this mask and it's embarrassing. No, I'm not talking about that kind of humiliation. I'm talking about humiliation to do an act that you know isn't real, that is nothing but therapeutic for other people to feel good. Hello. Now, I know some people out there saying you're a science denier. There is so much competing evidence, even from Dr. Fauci's own words. We know this. Dr. Fauci has been all over the place on mask wearing, even when they discovered his emails. And he's like, yeah, that kind of mask wearing. Look, I'm going to go through these points one by one that I said earlier. Let's start with them from the top. Number one, you must apply single factor analysis, which is the harm from COVID. You have to believe that COVID is a huge killer in order for that single factor analysis to be more prudent. Otherwise, you're actually being imprudent. Now, we saw the same thing last year. In some ways, we're basically just rewinding the clock, aren't we? We're basically going back to where we were at the beginning of the pandemic, which is this. What are you willing to give up in your life in order to try and, quote, keep people safe, keep yourself safe? What are you willing to give up? Are you willing to go into lockdown for a week, 2 weeks, 6 months, a year, forever? Are you willing to do online school forever? Are you willing to do this? You're basically back to the very same questions, which is why all of a sudden everybody's gotten divided on the issue again, because we never actually dealt with the philosophy. You never dealt with the political philosophy of how this is going to work. We had single factor analysis last year. Remember, we talked about it at Cooper stuff. You basically have people that say the greatest thing we can do is keep everybody safe. We need zero COVID. And that's the single factor. You had other people saying, hey, people don't have jobs. People don't have money. People are going to lose their income. You're going to have to fire your employees if you're a business owner. If you're not a business owner and you're an employee, well, you're going to have to, am I going to lose my job? Everybody's under all of these various things. Well, what the media does then, they come in and they basically say, okay, it's a binary choice. You either care about people or you care about money. And that becomes the binary choice. Well, in reality, that's not how life works, does it? You have to care about your livelihood, but your job, you have to pay bills, your safety. Plenty of people all of us pretty much make those decisions every day, right? Every time you get behind the wheel of a car to drive, you're making an analysis. I could get in a wreck on my way to work. I could do that. In fact, it could not even be any fault of my own. Someone else could do something bad to me that's going to cause me harm, but it's a risk I have to take because I have to get to my job. Some people have jobs that put them at risk every day. Maybe you're a medical worker, a policeman, a fireman, a lumberjack, whatever, right? You're somebody that goes and cuts down the trees, whatever that is. A lot of people put their lives in danger every single day. You do that because there are a lot of factors that you have to put in. Well, if the only thing that you care about is nobody can get COVID, if that's the only thing you care about, then COVID has to be a lot more deadly than it actually is. We're not saying that it's not deadly, but I'm just letting you know for my sake. Let's just say that COVID had a 10% death rate. You hear me? 10% death rate. That's quite high. Agreed? Well, if COVID had a 10% death rate, well, then I would be making different decisions in my life, right? I would be making different decisions for my kids. That's quite a lot. Who wants to send their kids to school with a 10% death rate? Well, that's going to change things, but it doesn't. All right. So that's the single factor analysis thing that really bothers me. Number two, you must believe that. I already said that COVID is much more deadly to justify the single factor analysis. You must believe the information we're receiving from the government and everybody else is true. It's based on accurate. I'm not even going to go through that. We know that that's not the case. Some of it is warranted because yes, it's a novel virus. It's new. There's lots of things we can't know. We're getting new information. I'm personally totally fine with that. That to me, that's humility. That's why it annoys me, the dogmatism of people coming on and saying, you must do this. The science says this. Well, I'm like, hey, don't you have some humility here? We don't know exactly what that is going to mean in the future. So therefore, we have to take a lot of factors involved in this. But the amazing thing to me that you have to ignore, which is one of my other points, you have to ignore the things that they keep getting wrong. And you have to ignore the things that they yank off of social media as, quote, fake news. And then in 6 months later, many of those things have become true. Nobody apologizes. Nobody says, yeah, we were wrong. You just move on. It's almost like those are the new facts of the religion. It's almost like the religion is changing. It's a religion that you have to bow down to. Don't be heretical and go against what they tell you. And if it changes next week, well, the gods have spoken. That's just the way it is. The gods spoke something new, so do what they say and don't question it, or you'll be a heretic. Even if what they say contradicts what they said the week before. That is a huge problem with this whole stance about Jesus says you have to wear a mask thing. There is a lot of changing information happening out there. All right? And the competing narratives that keep getting taken down are really freaky. One of the main ones to me is the omission of the fact, if I've understood the science correctly, that if you've had COVID, then you already have some immunity. Some people say you have more immunity than the vaccine. Some people say, well, maybe not quite as much, but we're not sure yet. Whatever it is, we know that's a factor. So acting like that it's all about the vaccine when really what it's really about is immunity. Some people have natural immunity. What we really need is the immunity more than we need a proof of a vaccine, right? Why are they ignoring that? Why are they ignoring that? And that's one of the obvious things when I look at the tweet or I look at what Arnold said this week. I'm just like, yeah, but you have to know that that's something. You have to know that counts for something. And by you intentionally omitting it in a certain way, you're not being exactly honest about what you're saying you're going for. It kind of just seems like you're being a political ideologue. That's what really bothers me. It seems like you're being driven more by what's, ironically, the stance of the power state, if you will, or our overlords. Ironically, the reason I say ironic is because in the original tweet it says we have a different ethic from the world. Well, the ethic from the world and all the powerful right now is all in line with what Beth Moore is tweeting. So I'm not sure. It's just the irony of that situation. It sounds like you're just jumping on board with the political ideology, because we do know if you've had COVID, which is a lot of people, by the way, or if you have natural immunity, well, that counts for something. And it should be up to people's, yes, individual rights to say, hey, I've had COVID. I don't need to go get a vaccine to make you feel good. It's not bragging about individual rights. It's like, hey, you don't have the right, government or culture or whoever, to come in and demand that I put something in my body. That's not bragging about, that's not bragging and saying, well, I don't care what it does to other people. What happens if we lose that, you guys? What happens if we lose that and the government starts deciding, I don't know, who they think that we should make sterile? How does that sound? Oh, that would never really happen. Really? Check out the degrowth movement. Or, in fact, Check out what communist China is doing currently, not 100 years ago, not 300 years ago. Check out what China is doing right now as we speak to the Uyghur Muslims. That wouldn't really happen, that really, we need to read a little bit of history to understand what actually is possible. So this idea of us just bragging about individual rights when in the end we're saying, no, we are protecting you from the possibility, I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, it's a possibility that if the government can demand that you put something in your body, well, what's going to stop them from putting something worse than the vaccine in your body? All right? I'm not even saying that I think the vaccine's horrible. I'm not going to even say what I think about all that. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I know that makes some people watching Cooper stuff annoyed because some people who watch Cooper stuff are very against the vaccine or very anti-vax. I'm actually not even one of those people. But I do not think the government has the right to do it. And then making this pharisaical thing that Jesus would have you do it or else wear a mask, that really kind of bothers me. Also, what bothers me in the tweet is saying, for God's sake, put on a mask in public places with vulnerable people. We can't even tell what the government's telling us right now. You're saying if you're not vaccinated, then you're fine around the vulnerable people. But right now, they keep saying that actually you're not. People with the vaccine can get the Delta variant and they could spread it. They could spread it. That's the whole thing. Even if you've had the vaccine, you need to wear the mask, they're saying. So I don't even know what. I don't know what to believe from the government right now. And it kind of sounds like what Beth Moore is saying is you should believe what they're telling you, even though she's not really agreeing with what they're telling her. I don't know. It kind of bothers me a little bit. I think it's kind of a pretty important thing. You must believe that we can reach zero COVID. Here's the reason I say that if you want to believe that tweet, then what you mean is we're going to be able to reach it one day. Do you think we're going to reach zero COVID? I mean, I'm not a smart guy. In fact, not smart at all. I have no idea if we'll ever reach zero COVID, but I kind of don't think so. It doesn't seem like it right now. Certainly anytime soon. There's all these other variants happening. It seems to me that we're going to be dealing with it for a really long time. So at what point does Jesus stop caring about you wearing your mask? Like 2 years? 5 years? 10 years? Or at what point of hospitalizations where it's like, okay, the hospitalizations are down enough. Now Jesus is like, okay, everybody take your mask off. That's the sort of thing that I don't really get. And the fact that for children, for instance, for children, of the past statistics for the past, several years, you go look at the last 10 years, children that get the seasonal flu are more likely to die from the seasonal flu than children are dying if they get COVID. So were we not acting like Jesus for all the years that our kids weren't masking when they're going to school? I'm not telling you not to mask. I'm not telling you not to have your kid mask. That's up to you, okay? That's your job as a parent. But these are some pretty deep... These are not smart questions. These are obvious questions that everyone should be asking. At what point are you now loving your neighbor, and at what point is that going to stop? I guess I'm just saying that. And if you have a kid that is like compromised, it's like, I'm afraid if my kid gets, I saw somebody in the news saying my kid has asthma and this, and if all those other kids aren't wearing masks, they're putting my kid at danger. I would just say to that person in a loving way, because that would be a really hard decision to make. I would just say this: go and read more research on the effectiveness or the efficacy of mask wearing. Because if my child was compromised in that way, and there was a pretty good chance that my kid could be hurt for the rest of their lives or die if they got it from one of these other kids, I would not trust mask wearing to keep my kid safe. I'm just saying. That's just my personal thing. I guess that's my question for you. If your child is like, if my child gets COVID, there's a good chance that my child could die. And I said, okay, that's fine. But all the other 200 kids will be wearing masks. It'll be fine. I would not put that, I just wouldn't do that. We know from the stuff that we've read, these cloth masks don't do a whole lot. The net gaiters don't do virtually anything. if you're going to wear the mask, you have to wear it properly. You have to wear the right kind of mask. The stuff that I've read says that really you're supposed to, even if you have like the whole, I can't remember what it's called, what's the full on, like, whatever, medical grade, I can't remember what it's called right now, but the one you're supposed to wear that virtually nobody has and wears, you're supposed to change it, like discard it, like, I can't remember how much. It's like, but it's like more than once a day. You're supposed to discard it, put a new one on because you're breathing in germs. How many are you going to trust your 6-year-old kid to go to school and not just keep the mask on, but to wear it properly, have the right one, discard it, put a new one on, not touch their face? I don't know. I just think the whole thing, there are a lot of questions about that. That's all that I'm saying. Also, if you read some of the research about places that did mandatory masking in other countries, it doesn't really, if I've understood it correctly, it doesn't seem to actually be doing much. What it seems to be doing is just making it look like, hey, we're trying. Now we're back to the empathy thing. It's the empathy of, we want everybody to know that we care. Well, I don't really know. Well, actually, I do know. I do not want to live my life just projecting and signaling to everyone that I'm a good person. I care, so I'm going to do something that I know. It's like I'm going to close my eyes and hop on one foot so that you know that I care. That's how I'm going to stop COVID. Hopping on one foot. I care. I care. Everybody know I care. We're stopping COVID. No, you're not. It's just therapeutic. That's my opinion. You may disagree. I may even be wrong about the science. If you think that, send me a message. It's totally fine with me. That's my feeling on it. And there seems to be at least enough contradictory evidence to what I just said. There's enough of it out there that I think when you begin to make a dogmatic statement like Jesus would fill in the blank, I don't think you're really being fair to what we're looking at. All right, here's the thing that really gets me. You must ignore the fact that the people demanding you to mask or lock down don't even believe in it. Have you guys seen, just this week it came out, that the Biden administration has considered and is considering doing vaccine mandates. Wait for it, because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, like for concerts and for games. No, wait for it. Vaccine mandates to travel on the interstate. This is remarkable to me. To travel on the interstate. Now, they're not putting that into play right now, but they are considering that. I've told you guys, I very rarely ever talk about geopolitics because it's way above me and it's not something I'm uber passionate about because I don't understand it enough. I never talk about immigration. It's not one of my things, okay? So I'm not telling you what I think about immigration. I'm just saying this. Everybody's aware of what's happening at the border right now, right? The highest numbers in 21 years at the American border, right? People are coming into America from over 100 countries, okay? 100 countries. Many of these people are not even being tested for COVID. Out of the people that are being tested for COVID, large percentages actually are COVID positive. And there's a ton of different strains because they're coming from all different places in the world. And those people, as we know, are being shipped out all throughout the country, right? They're being shipped planes, trains, automobiles, and to other parts while they have COVID through the interstate. The same government that is saying that maybe we should impose me, John, and you, American citizens, from getting on the interstate without a vaccine passport is shipping people that they know do have COVID, and who knows what strain, all over the country. This says to me that they don't believe what they're saying. They don't believe what they're saying or they wouldn't be doing it. Now, I know somebody right now is saying, yes, they do, John, you're a denier. It's just that they really feel that that's of justice. If that's what you have to say about it, I would say, that's fine with me. Why? Because it's not single factor analysis. What they are saying then is that, yes, we do believe that the vaccines matter. We do believe that the masks matter. But in this instance, there's something more important than that. I would say, I agree with that. Now, I want to make this clear. I personally don't, somebody's going to get mad at me here. I personally don't care if they send somebody into my city that has COVID, because I am not living my life in fear of COVID. I don't believe the propaganda. So I'm not saying I'm mad they're being shipped there. I'm kind of neutral about that because I don't really want to share my opinions on it, because geopolitics is just dicey. But I'm making sure that you understand I'm not going to feign. You know the word feign? It's a great word. I'm not going to feign outrage. It kind of means like fake it. I'm not going to fake outrage about the people coming over the border with COVID, sending it out, because I'm not living in fear of it. I think there are lots and lots of factors. But the difference is that the government is telling me. So what they're saying is that I have to do something that they themselves don't believe. We just saw that with Obama's 60th birthday party. Is going to have all these, several hundred people come to his house over on the East Coast, right there by the water. That, in fact, his house will be destroyed by climate change within the next 20 years, according to what they say they believe. But they still bought the house there. Just saying. I find that to be absolutely remarkable. It's remarkable to me that these people, these political ideologues, they want to tell you how to live your life, and they act like they absolutely believe it, but then they go buy a $19 million mansion or $15 million mansion on a place that is going to apparently be destroyed because of the climate change and stuff. Anyway, just saying. That's not what we're talking about. I find it remarkable. I don't like hypocrisy. I know when I'm being lied to, and I can't stand it. I know you can't stand it either. So Obama has all these hundreds of people come over there, and this is the same time that they're saying, even if you've had a vaccine, you can still catch the variant and this and that and the other. Well, they still have their thing, and these pictures come out. Nobody's wearing masks. They're all dancing. Now, one of the things I don't like about the right-wing media is that the right-wing media is they're playing into the same propaganda that the left-wing media plays in, which I can't stand. They're acting like they're really upset, like, this is going to cause a super spreader. Well, I don't think the right-wing really cares if it causes a super spreader. In other words, they're mixing what they really believe. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't care if people at Obama's thing get COVID. I mean, I don't wish ill upon them. What I mean is that that's not my thing. I think people should have choice in whether they want to go to a birthday party and whether they want to have a birthday party. That's not actually a thing for me. And so the feigned outrage on the right kind of annoys me. I wish that the right, they would stick to what they really believe, which is, if it's okay for him to have a party, it should be okay for me to have a party. That's all that I'm saying up in here. Saw the same thing with Mayor Lightfoot going to Lollapalooza with 100,000 people. We saw the same thing with Mayor Lightfoot last year. Remember that? Lockdowns, nobody leaves. We're going to put people in jail over it. And then they find out she went and got her own haircut. And then her defense is what? My personal hygiene is very important to me, and I did that for me. I needed it because I was going to have the sads if I didn't. And I don't want the sads. I want the happies. And getting my hair done, getting my hair did, gives me the happies. So it's different. This is what really irritates me. If they believe what they said, then this wouldn't be happening. You wouldn't get on a flight, be forced to have this mask on, and then say, Carol, people are going to die if we don't have the mask on. But now you can all take them off to eat in 3, 2, 1. Everybody drinking and eating and slobbering all over each other at the same time. If they believed it was that much of a risk, you wouldn't be allowed to drink on the flight. It would just be the rules. Why? Because people are dying from this. This is really important. Jesus wants you to wear the mask. Jesus wants you to not drink the soda. Don't you eat the peanuts, man. This is what really annoys me about it. There's a certain amount of theater that's going into this. Now, all this could change at some point. We could find out, I don't know, in a few weeks, all of a sudden, a whole bunch of children are dying from the Delta thing. If that happens, well, then guess what? We will take the new information and we will begin to apply our brains and ethics to the situation. But with what we have right now, I am very uncomfortable with the Christian platform people that are laying down Pharisaical laws saying this is what you have to do, especially for the fact that those Pharisaical laws are hand in hand with our overlords from big tech, big government, big media, big pharma. That's pretty frightening stuff. I don't really know why you want to go hand in hand and join up with that group of people when we do have a serious threat of totalitarianism happening that's never happened in my lifetime. People wanting to get into your life and tell you what you have to do and what your kids must do if they want to participate in life. That's pretty scary stuff. That's what we're going to get if we don't stop this safism. Safism was when you trade. Here, I'll give you my rights. I'll give you my medical history. I'll give you, you can put anything you want to my body. I'll do whatever you say. And you give me everything that I need, government. That's dangerous. You give me my, what is it that Cuba had? An allowance of 6 eggs a month. The government will give me my 6 eggs a month for me to barely survive on. My government will give me my, 2 chicken breasts a month or whatever it is. I can't remember what all the things from Cuba was that we saw recently, but it was pretty fascinating. The government says, this is what you get, and you get no more, and that's it. But we will keep you safe. Don't you worry. Give us your individual rights, and we will keep you safe. That's Cooper Stuff's opinion on the matter. I know some people are going to disagree with me. I want you to know I don't even mind if you disagree with me. I find this to be an area of grace and compassion. I feel like I got to warn people about this totalitarian government. We got to watch out for that stuff. If you disagree with me, send me a message. Won't bother me at all. Keep living for Jesus simple, man. Keep it simple up in here. Thanks so much for watching Cooper Stuff.